We are at USS North Carolina Memorial in Wilmington, North Carolina.
If you don't want something in the picture, you can put it on the table.
Go!
Just different strategies. Now, people are the armor, and I've had many people say, well, why don't they just like maintain the same, ice thick armor all over the place? And I think as they
Now these are 16-inch guns, the main batteries. There's 9 of them on the ship. 3 up front, 6 up, 3 in the back, 6 up front, 2 different turrets, right? These were the largest of the U.S. size battleship cannon, right? Guns is what they call them on this. This is the projectile size. Now the Yamato, which is the Japanese, had one that was 18 inches. But the armor piercing of the 16-inch from the American 1645 and 1654, what that means is the length of the barrel, right, was superior to the 18. They never met one another in battle. The Yamato was sunk by aircraft. But and these on the big ones on the turrets are 5-inch, and then these are 40mm Bofors, and those are 50 cal anti-aircraft. This is the size of the round that you see in the Barrett and the Macmillan sniper rifles. Nope, these are 20mm. These are 20mm. Look at the size of that gun. You could almost crawl down the barrel of that gun. It's open. They used wood on this to cut down on the weight, right? And it didn't have tendency to rust, so the boys had to scrub it all the time to keep it clean, like you see on the old sailing ship movies. Same scenario. Problem is when these were designed, even back in 41 when they built these, right, when they built this one, aircraft from above made this very vulnerable to armor piercing bombs. They just bunch right through the wood. The plating on the side of the ship is thick. That is a life raft that they would have to be in if the ship would go down. Imagine being in shark infested waters and that. When the big guns go off, right, you can't be up on deck like this. You have to be off deck. The vacuum could suck you off the deck. Imagine that. Just slide across. There's a Rucker Schroeder mover, Too Young to Be a Hero, that showed exactly what's going on, and it was the VA. Go ahead. It was the VA in the military screwing him over because he joined at like 14, although he was a hero. They didn't want to recognize him as a veteran. It took Jimmy Carter to rectify that. That's how long he had to wait. Now we're going down into the belly of the ship, and this looks like the galley, or one of the galleys, I bet.
I like those things.
Well, they're all like this. These ships are not built for comfort, except for maybe the officers. They get baby. And here's your chapel for service. Here you go. Let's read it from left to right. This is the kitchen for this particular galley.
This is a recreation of the picture of that. It says, Robbie and Patsy, good luck. Happy birthday.
Over here's the bread. That's how much bread they made a day. You had about 2,000 sailors. You had 200 pounds, 50 pounds sugar. And when these doors would close, they're watertight. So when these doors would close, right, and they say that the ship got hit, you could be stuck in a room that was flooding and couldn't get out and drown because they'd saved the ship. That's how they send the stuff up to the turrets. And this ship is supposed to be. As we wait in line, we'll pause. As we enter the bowels of the ship, we keep going further and further down. These soldiers in combat would have to be able to negotiate these.
You got to look out.
Well, they're not soldiers, they're sailors. Army soldiers. I'm like the whole army.
I feel like I went into the port once upon a time. So I didn't know you did that.
If you look at the picture here, there's a 5-inch turret. You see we got going down to the projectiles up. You just saw those coming up here, so that was for the 5-inchers coming up to play. And over here's the magazine. This is to keep it cool. See 5-inch gun mounts? That's what we have on, basically what you have on the M1 Abrams. 120 something millimeter.
You want to turn around?
Now remember, at the Battle of the Philippines, that's the main gun on the Myrtle class destroyers that took on the Yamato with 18 inches.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, this is how they kept it cool. As we descend down, we'll pause. Is the engine room and a diesel generator that runs the power of the ship itself. It's this ship that made Ghost Adventures, I believe. Different, huh? And the further you go down, right, just think, if it gets hit by a torpedo or a bomb, it's going to lose power and you're going to have to negotiate your way out if you want to live. Think about that. Let that sink in. And there were no AC in the South Pacific ships during World War II. You're just getting it now as a courtesy. So these boys were drafted. Overwhelming majority of them were drafted, right? And forced to come into places and work like this. Could you imagine working in a Ford plant like this? For what these fellas made?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Is this the way out? Do you want to go up or back there?
No, that's where we came from. So. Follow the arrows.
There's one down.
Back to this. This is another up high to where we came in way over
Yeah.
there.
Mhm.
Alrighty.
Well, that's going back up. That's gonna be the
These are the big vats they would cook soups and vegetables in. Here's the number of griddles they would use to make your eggs and your bacon and your sausages and fry your sausages. Here's another side of the galley. There's the serving pots on that side. Look at the size of this cauldron that they would use. Granted, it won't be like a 5-star restaurant, but I'm gonna tell you flat out, the Army's breakfast when you were in the rear, top notch. That's who got me turned on to omelets and stuff. Oh yeah, and it's all you can eat.
Really?
Yeah, it's all you can eat. If I didn't have an omelet, I'd eat like 6 eggs every morning. I'm not lying to you. If I hadn't had an omelet, I'd eat 6 eggs, but I'd have an omelet, 2 biscuits, gravy, 3 or 4 pieces of bacon, 2 or 3 pieces of sausage every morning, not including potatoes. Every morning. I didn't gain a weight until I got out of the service and stopped doing all that stupid running. Here's the main deck galley where the sailors, I want to call them soldiers, would come and eat. And there's their trays. That's what they'd be served on. Again, these are watertight doors. You can see the rubber. We got another galley going on here. Here's their store, their PX. Well, they could come and spend some money if they wanted to. Notice they got playing cards. Now the one they had for the Vietnam one in Charleston had the Playboys, but this is World War II class. And in World War II they were a little more prudish, is the way of saying it, and not realistic. They could get sodas and root beer. They couldn't have real beer. It's a place for them to come and relax on their time or their downtime. You got to give soldiers and sailors that, or they're going to wig out. You got to be able to unwind. Notice there's no windows. Did you notice that? There's no windows. Imagine living in this type of environment day in and day out in the South Pacific. You see how they're all without shirts? It's hot in here. Hot. There's no AC. See what they could buy here? They got, now unlike nowadays, you got people that's uptight about smoking. Oh, it's so bad. Yet they do drugs and we're supposed to feel sorry for them, right? They've got all types of different types of tobacco, different types of candy. Got toothpaste back there. Peanuts. See the canned peanuts back there? They could purchase all that in there if they wanted it. And then they were also issued cigarettes, which isn't a bad thing compared to boo-hooing and giving out free syringes to the drug users to keep them safe. Here's their barber shop. They had to come and keep their hair cut to a certain standard. You seen any windows yet? So there's no windows. So it's not a pleasure cruise, is it? See? on, boy. You go first. Just imagine how loud it would be on deck when they had to shoot during an air attack. They had to just shoot the 5 inchers, the 40 millimeter Bofors, the 20 millimeters, and the 50 cals. This is their laundry. They called it the Taylor. Keeps their stuff clean. You can see the fellas, there's no privacy, there's no room. Remember, 70% of all men who fought World War II were drafted. That means they were told to come or face severe consequences. Same thing like telling a female you have no control of your body. This is their berthing, which means it's their sleeping quarters. Look how tiny. That's how you had to sleep in that.
Is that a shoe fixer? Yeah. Cobbler shop.
There's your cobbler shop. That's where they do the shoes. They had no AC, and imagine being in the South Pacific with no AC down here.
Yeah, no thanks.
Just imagine how steamy it would be in here. But remember, according to the left, American women have it the worst because they lost control of killing babies. Huh? I know we did. Go.
Excuse me. You know which way is out?
Nope. It just takes you up.
But we were not doing it.
No, just go.
Going. Chelsea's trying to get money off of me, and I'm just ignoring her. I'll have to take that out. You're now in the hydroelectric steering. This is what turns the huge rudder or rudders on the back of the ship. See them? This is what turns them. You're in the bowels of the ship. These, until the invention of the aircraft carrier, things like dive bombers, were the kings of the ocean. And just like West Point, here's your rudders. You had a bunch of people that couldn't adapt past what they were taught or told to memorize. Go ahead. That's how steep it is, especially in the Japanese Navy. I'm gonna film up this one just to show you what it's like. Just like the Japanese Navy, they didn't put a lot of the admiralty, that's officers, didn't put a lot of stock in aircraft carriers. They found out tragically that's wrong. Here's your print shop. This is where they would make their shipboard newspaper and history and stuff like that. More berthing. We're back into the laundry room. cobbler room. And as we go back into the galley, into the stores, we're working our way back to the top. That's where they're doing their dishes. Another galley. Here we go. This is how they get 16-inch projectiles up. Look how big it is. Stand beside it, Tommy, too. Look how big it is. And he's, Tommy 2's 5'10". They pull them up through that hole. Nuts. Big, 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 big. More galley. This is a larger berthing room. Imagine if one person had belly issues while they were in here. They had no AC. Now, little known fact, the US Navy considered if you ended up with a VD disease that you stole time from the military, even if you were drafted. And with VD, you would have to sit on what's called the red chair, right? At the end of the tour, even at the end of the war, they required you to stay on longer because you owed the Navy, because you had VD. Tell me if that's not slavery. See the privacy? That's legit. Do you see any privacy? And you think overly fed and overly pampered Americans who cry about fictitious rights being taken away, right, have it bad? These guys have it bad. Had it bad. Past tense. I don't know what the purpose of the red lights are for. I'm not Navy, so I don't know that one. Alrighty, that's where we're going next. This is the machine shop where they would have to repair stuff. Machinists would work in here with lathes and presses and all that. Nice. This is where they send the shells up to the 5-inch magazines, 5-inch turrets, I should say. Now we're moving back here.
Welcome to the ship's main battery plotting room. You are on the first platform, below the water level, and behind the torpedo protection armor. In front of you are 2 mechanical analog ballistic computers with a 16-inch main battery guns. They are Mark 8 rangekeeper computers built by the Ford Instrument Company. They are part of the ship's Mark 38 gunfire control system. The computers have both manual and electrical inputs with all the factors required to aim the guns so the projectiles could accurately hit a target up to 23 miles away. The ship's speed and bearing, and the target's bearing and range were continuously fed into the computers, along with wind speed, wind direction, and the ship's roll, pitch, and drift. 24 other factors were entered into the computers as well. These included the projectile's weight, the amount and temperature of the powder, the wear on the rifle barrel, and the air density. The computers corrected for rotation of the Earth, the curvature of the Earth, Coriolis effect, and the difference in lines of sight for the various guns and the various observation points. Enemy targets were observed and tracked via the 2 main battery directors, Spot 1 and Spot 2, located on the superstructure high above the ship. The director's job was to send continuous target bearing and range information to the designated computers. Bearing was provided by rotating the director's line of sight to the target. Range was provided by stereoscopic rangefinder telescopes and later by radar, which ultimately more accurate.
Look at the size of these computers. Your average day iPhone does more. That's a good example of the range of a 5-inch, which is in the middle, and then the 16-inch ranges. Look at the size of these computers. See the fuses? This was state-of-the-art in 1941. It's computers this size and larger that broke the German Enigma code for their U-boats. Come on, boy. Look how tight. If you're claustrophobic, you couldn't be in here. We're now below the water level. Remember, that's what they said. Behind the torpedo blister protection. More crew lockers as we go up. How tiny the beds are. Lengthwise, under 5 feet. Here we go. We're going into turret 2. This is how the main projectiles for the 16-inch Mark 13s would be stored. Look at the size of the chains on them. They're 2,000 pounds, dude. That's traveling 23 miles to hit a target 23 miles downrange. A moving target while you're moving. And this is how the explosive charge would be sent up to the main battery upstairs in turret 2. This is 16-inch 45. Come here, Tommy 2. What does the 16-inch 45 stand for? What does that 45 stand for? Yeah, the caliber. What is the 45? The length of the barrel. I told you that earlier, remember? Okay, and that's how it goes up. Whoop! Comes to here. They move them, throw them in there, and go. When they had the explosion, I'm thinking in the 80s, on the Missouri, they left those ports open in an effort to make it fast. That's a safety hazard. You can see how they work their way through. And this is what they're stored in. When the Arizona exploded and blew in half, this is what exploded. Was the magazine. And that's what we're in. So you had all that powder, this powder going off at one time, along with the shells. See how they roll it down? They roll it across. And depending upon the range of their target, would be using 1, 2, or 3 bags to blow them down, to send that 2,000-pound projectile 23 miles. Watch your head. Oh, I was wrong. They got 6 on this one. Here we go. That's a 12-inch projectile, right? It had 2 bags of powder. See that one up there? That's from that ship. This one is from a different one, like the Dreadnought class. And then here is the North Carolina class. Of course, now we have ballistic missile submarines, so destroyers and cruisers now do what these battleships used to do, but they're thinly armed. I mean, thinly armored in comparison. These and the 5-inchers are what this ship was designed for, to carry these up. And that's how they go upstairs. Didn't we just come this way? Didn't? Tommy 2 emerges, we're on the back side of the magazine. Ooh, it's hot. More birthing. What does it mean to be birthing? What does it mean when they talk about being birthing and it's not giving birth to a baby?
Like resting.
That's where they sleep. It's their quarters. That's what you want to call this. There is no creature comforts. Have you seen any creature comforts? Have you seen any creature comforts?
What?
Have you seen any creature comforts? None. Absolutely none. That's the supply, one of the supply rooms. That's why I have complete admiration for these guys. Alrighty. Now this is what the officers got. This is what you see in movies. Tell me, compare this room to the enlisted, and if you wanted to be drafted. Wow, those people were able to handle more and do more. Here's another example. That's the chaplain's room, medical officer. This is the Marine detachment officer. Oh, look, this actually looks like it semi like what they have. There you go. Lower ranking officers. There's a bunk bed in this one.
There's a bunk bed in that one as well.
Yeah, they got drawers and everything else they want for creature comforts. Poor enlisted got hammered and did not get paid enough. This is where the Admiral would have his office. These are 40mm anti-aircraft guns known as the Bofors, and they're excellent, excellent anti-aircraft guns. They're mid-range, so just imagine, had all these 20mm, right? Had all these Bofors that you see all around us, the 5-inchers, right? Up there's going to be some 5-inchers up on top of that. There's Bofors over here, all shooting at incoming aircraft, not including there's going to be several 50 cal spots going off. That's why they called these things the floating anti-aircraft platforms. And so many of the Zeros got wasted coming into here if they got past the air support, the air cover. And we're back to the beginning.